If you think today's Hollywood is wild, just wait until you hear about the scandalous secrets from its so-called golden age in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. While many of us associate the free love movement of the late 60s and early 70s with the height of Hollywood's promiscuous behavior, the truth is that back in the golden age, the stars of Tinseltown were living just as recklessly. It was a time when infidelity, affairs, and even orgies were rampant behind closed doors. Marriage was nothing more than a formality for many of the biggest names in Hollywood, and the culture of excess and indulgence extended far beyond just the silver screen. The biggest stars of the time were not shy about living their most liberated lives, and some took it to shocking extremes. Take Ava Gardner, for example. Her love life was like a whirlwind of romance and scandal. She married Mickey Rooney, but it was clear that their love life was nothing but a facade for her. Gardner's list of lovers reads like a who's who of Hollywood elite, including Frank Sinatra, Howard Hughes, Artie Shaw, and even Ernest Hemingway. Her affairs were legendary, and trying to count the number of men she was involved with would be nearly impossible. She was living proof that in Hollywood, fame wasn't just about talent. It was about who you were sleeping with. Then there's Elizabeth Taylor, another iconic star whose personal life was just as dramatic as her roles on screen. Taylor was married a total of 7 times, with each marriage becoming fodder for the tabloids. Her affair with Eddie Fisher while he was still married to her best friend, Debbie Reynolds, made headlines around the world. She went on to marry Fisher after he divorced Reynolds, only for the union to fall apart as well. But perhaps her most notorious romance was with Richard Burton, the man she once called the love of her life. Their on-again, off-again relationship was filled with fiery passion and public scandal, with their relationship being so controversial that even the Vatican weighed in. Taylor's marriages, affairs, and scandals made her as famous for her personal life as she was for her acting. And who could forget Vivien Leigh? Best known for her unforgettable portrayal of Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, Swing Lee was equally famous for her torrid love affairs and turbulent marriages. Her first marriage ended after she became obsessed with Sir Laurence Olivier, whom she pursued relentlessly, even though he was married at the time. Eventually, Olivier divorced his wife and married Lee. However, their marriage was far from idyllic. The two would eventually divorce in 1960, but Lee's string of lovers didn't end there. She was linked to several other high-profile men, including Marlon Brando, Elia Kazan, and Orson Welles, and her sexual escapades seemed endless. Then there's Tallulah Bankhead, the actress with a voice so sultry it was described as steeped in sex as the human voice could possibly go. Bankhead was one of Hollywood's most notorious sex symbols, known for her boldness and willingness to break social conventions. She was openly bisexual at a time when it wasn't accepted, and she had numerous lovers, both male and female, including Greta Garbo and Marlene Dietrich. Bankhead even openly bragged about her sexual conquests, admitting in interviews that she hadn't had an affair in 6 months, which she found to be too long. She was a woman ahead of her time, indulging in her desires without a second thought, regardless of the consequences. Jane Mansfield, a blonde bombshell known for her striking beauty and bold personality, was another star who wasn't shy about her romantic entanglements. She was rumored to have had an affair with President John F. Kennedy, but perhaps her most infamous lover was Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan. Their brief but scandalous relationship made headlines, especially after LaVey claimed they had an affair after her tragic death in a car crash. Mansfield's sexual escapades were often as talked about as her acting career. Mae West, too, deserves mention. Known for her provocative roles and sharp wit, West was a woman ahead of her time, challenging Hollywood's sexual norms and using her fame to promote sexual liberation. She wasn't afraid to speak out on issues like gay rights, and she famously had many lovers, including Paul Novak, whom she called the love of her life. West was the epitome of sexual freedom, both on and off screen. Hollywood's golden age was a time when the stars were just as famous for their passionate love lives as they were for their talent. The likes of Lupe Velez, Clara Bow, and Louise Brooks were all notorious for their string of lovers and controversial affairs. Bao, the it girl of the silent film era, was rumored to have had an affair with the entire USC football team, and Brooks was known for her many relationships, including a famous affair with Greta Garbo. Looking back, it's clear that the stars of the Golden Age were living lives that were just as scandalous as those of today's celebrities. Whether they were involved in extramarital affairs, secret romances, or wild, unapologetic sexual escapades, the culture of old Hollywood was as promiscuous as it was glamorous. It's a side of the silver screen that most people never see, until now. These stars may have left behind a legacy of film and fame, but their personal lives were filled with as much drama as any of their on-screen performances. If anything, Hollywood's golden age was a time of excess and indulgence, and its stars were just as infamous for their love lives as they were for their iconic roles.